Hello YouTubers, Lamar here. This video is about making you a better musician. If you put this video on once a day for the next 7 days and play these finger exercises with me, I guarantee you your keyboard skills will improve beyond your belief. So let's get started in making you a great musician. So we're looking at how to find the major chord and the minor chord for any key. Now, in order to understand how to find the major chord or the minor chord for any key, it's important that we understand what we call steps. It's also important that we understand and know all of our scales. For example, the C major scale. Three, two, one. One. C major scale. It's important that we understand all of our scales, and there are actually 12 major scales. All right. Now, let's just start with C major, and I'll show you how this process works. I mentioned also that it's important that you understand steps. Now, the basic foundation for a C major scale runs, and I'll use the finger numbering, fingers 1, 2, 3, and we cross over and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it would look like this: 1, 2, 3, thumb goes under, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and to come back down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. All right, that would be our C major scale. Now, the major scale consists of the first, third, and fifth note of the scale. I'm sorry, the major chord consists of the first, third, and fifth note of the scale. So the first note, third note, and the fifth note. So a major scale would sound like this. We put that together. All right. Now, the minor chord is when we lower the third note, what we call a half step. So let me explain to you what steps are. A half step is when you play from one note to another note and there's no note in between. You notice I'm playing the C, I'm playing the C sharp, and there's no note in between. That's called a half step. So from C to C sharp is a half step. Now from C to D is what we call a whole step, because with a whole step there is a note in between. Namely, in this case, there's the C sharp. So from C to D is a whole step. From C to C sharp is a half step. Now that applies to any note. If, for example, I play an E and then I play the F, well, the F is a half step up. From E to F sharp is a whole step up because there is a note in between the F. Okay, so there lies a difference between half steps and whole steps. Okay, whole step, note in between. From F to G, that's a whole step. There's a note in between, F sharp. All right, so again, the scale runs like this: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. All right. So the chord, the major chord, would be first, third, and fifth note. Now to make the chord minor, I would simply lower the third note a half step, and it would look or sound like this. Okay? We often say major chords sound happy, minor chords sound sad. All right? C major, C minor. Now, the rule for the scales, and it's important that we understand this if you're trying to memorize how to play or learn that you can play any scale, there is a foundational rule for how we play scales. I just played a scale. A scale consists of 8 notes. In this case, I just played the C major scale. It runs from C to C. All right? There's a rule that's applied to this. And the rule says this: once you play your foundational note, your basic note, you play then whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half. All right, I'll say that again. Once you play your foundation note, you then play whole step, half, whole step, half. That's 2 whole steps, half step, 3 whole steps, half step. So it would look like this. Here's your foundation. So the whole step up, next note, whole step, then a half step. Then whole step, half, which would mean skip a note, skip a note, skip a note, and half step. That is the foundation for any scale. Whole step, half, whole step, half. So I can press any key and play the scale. For example, let's take A flat. Here is the scale. The scale goes whole step, half, whole step, half. So I go whole step, half, which means I skip a note, half. Then go whole step, half. Skip a note, skip a note, skip a note, and half. All right. So the chord for A flat would be the first, third, and fifth note of the scale. There's that third note. Half. And there's the fifth note. And there's my chord. That's called a major chord, an A flat major chord. Now to make the A flat a minor chord, I lower the third note a half step. And you notice I move my middle finger over. All right, so A flat major would be, and A flat minor would be. All right, let's do it again. Let's apply the rules. Let's use the G. All right, so I'm going to play a whole step, half, and what I'm trying to do is get the scale. Whole step, half, then whole step, half. So here we go. Foundation. Whole step, half. Whole step, half. Skip a note, skip a note, skip a note. That's called a G major scale. All right. Now, how do we play the major chord? We play the first, third, and the fifth note of the scale. There's a third note. There's a fifth note. There's our G major chord. And to make this a G minor chord, I lower the third note. In this case, the B, I lower it a half step. And there's our G minor. And again, this rule applies to any key on the keyboard. Let's say I wanted to do G flat. Tricky key. Play the foundation. Skip a note, whole step, whole step. There's our third note, then go half step, fourth note, whole step, whole step, whole step, skip, and half. So here's my first, third, and fifth note of the G flat major chord. And to make the chord minor, I lower the third note a half step. G flat major, G flat minor. All right, this rule applies to any note on the keyboard. Let's use one more. Let's take an E. All right, here's our E. Whole step, half. Skip, skip. There's our third note, half step, fourth note, skip. There's our first, third, and fifth note. And if we kept going, whole step, half. There's our scale. And here's our chord. First, third, and fifth note. to make the E and E minor, we lower the third note, half step. All right, so I have E major, E minor. Now, I also have a series of videos on all of the major scales and how to execute those. So make sure you watch them. F major. All right. I hope this helps. And again, this rule applies to any key on the keyboard. If you put this video on once a day for the next 7 days and play these finger exercises with me, I guarantee you your keyboard skills will improve beyond your belief.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to click the like and subscribe button on this video.